On the day my son participated in the piano competition, I got into a car accident on my way there. Without bothering to check my injuries, I limped to the venue, just in time for the awards ceremony. He won the gold medal and ran toward me with an excited expression. I smiled and looked down, but he turned and hung the gold medal around the neck of his husband's first love. Even my husband, whom I've loved for 10 years, spoke impatiently, "Look at what you're wearing. All dirty, like a beggar. Don't come to our son's victory banquet tonight, he's embarrassed by you." I remained silent and went to the hospital alone to have my injuries examined. I ran back to the villa in the rain, only to find the door had been bolted from the inside. In the pouring rain, I knocked on the door all night long. When the first ray of dawn appeared on the horizon, I sent them a message: "Let's get a divorce. As you wished, I won't be in your way anymore." I took the villa key from my bag and gently placed it under the doormat. As I walked out the gate, I received a message from Harry. "Our son said he wants to eat the scallion pancakes from that place in the south of the city." In the past, I would have definitely rushed to take the subway to the south of the city to buy it for him, bringing along a cup of warm, freshly ground soy milk. But now, without the slightest hesitation, I turn off my phone, take out the SIM card, and throw it into the trash bin. Using the convenience store's Wi-Fi, I purchased a ticket for the next trip back to my hometown. Just as I was paying, Harry's voice call came in. I accidentally pressed the answer button. On the phone, his angry voice came through. "Poppy, where did you go off to this early morning? Why aren't you back yet? You didn't even know to buy scallion pancakes back when our son said he wanted to eat them. He's starving to death. You've certainly developed a temper lately, learning to shut down and even demanding a divorce, I see." His voice cut off abruptly. I hung up expressionlessly and dragged him into my blacklist. Those unspoken words didn't need to be said anymore. Yesterday afternoon, I made a point to leave early, ordered John's favorite flowers, and afraid of embarrassing him, I went out of my way to buy an expensive suit that was shockingly pricey. On the way to rush to the performance venue, I was involved in a serious car accident. I crawled out of the overturned car, refused the paramedic's recommendation for an examination, and anxiously jogged to the venue. A large patch of skin was scraped off my forehead, and my knees and elbows were dripping with blood. Yet John didn't care at all. He complained that my clothes were dirty and that my hair was a mess, but never once thought to ask me if it hurt. I wanted to give him a hug, but he pushed me away screaming, "Go away, don't dirty my clothes." The obvious disgust in his eyes made my eyes start to sting. I froze in place, watching helplessly as he took Morgan's arm and left together. Harry followed behind them, and as he passed me, he deliberately shoved me aside, with undisguised contempt in his voice. "Look at you. You can't even compare to a single strand of Morgan's hair. No wonder your son doesn't want to acknowledge you as his mother." A parent I knew patted my shoulder, with a hint of sympathy, and asked if I needed to go to the hospital. I fought back tears and shook my head, clutching the bouquet of flowers that had been scattered in the car accident, and left all alone. It wasn't until I got in the car and settled into my seat that I realized I had been a bit impulsive. Glancing at the date on my phone, I discovered that today was my birthday. After 10 years of marriage, I've been busy every day all for Harry and our son. I've never properly celebrated a birthday, so naturally no one remembered. I almost forgot myself. When the flight attendant passed by me with the meal cart, I selected a small cake that didn't look very appealing. Having not eaten anything all day, my stomach was already growling with hunger. But I solemnly placed the cake on the table, clasped my hands together and made a wish. I hope that for the rest of my life, I'll live only for myself. When I opened my eyes and was about to eat, I inadvertently looked up and met the longing gaze of the little girl at the next table. She stared at the cake that didn't look very appetizing, greedily swallowing her saliva. She looked just like John when he was a gluttonous child. I chuckled softly and pushed the cake toward her. She looked as if she had been hungry for a long time, and in less than 2 minutes, she ate the entire piece of cake completely clean. There was still a little bit of cream on the corner of her mouth. I was in such a hurry that I didn't even have a pack of tissues with me. I was about to ask her parent to help her wipe it off, but suddenly realized that the seat next to her was empty. I asked her in confusion, "Are you alone? Where's your mother?" She pouted, her eyes turning red as she lowered her head and answered softly, "Mom got off the train with my brother yesterday. She said if I sat quietly to the terminal station, someone would like me." Only then did I realize something was wrong. I found a conductor, and after some investigation, I learned that the woman who had brought her aboard had secretly gotten off the train hours earlier. In other words, she had been abandoned on the train. When we were about to arrive, she hugged my legs, crying and begging me to take her away. "Auntie, I heard that children in the welfare home are often beaten. You look a lot like my mom, could you adopt me?" I shook my head at her apologetically, refusing her request rather cruelly. I didn't have much property, and I didn't even know what the future held for myself, so I really had no ability to adopt another child. When I got out of the car, I took one last look at her. Her face was stained with tears, but she forced herself to appear mature and waved at me. The one who came to pick me up at the station was my mother. The last time I saw her was 3 years ago, when I took John home with me for my father's funeral. After not seeing her for several years, I realized she had aged considerably without me noticing. The sparkle in her eyes had disappeared, and even her hair had turned mostly white. She anxiously scanned the crowd at the station exit, the forced smile on her face suddenly vanishing when she saw that I was alone. Her lips trembled several times, but in the end, she couldn't bring herself to ask. Instead, she just pulled me into her embrace with trembling hands, stroking my head like she did when I was a child. In her arms, I suddenly couldn't hold it back any longer and broke down crying. After 10 years of devotion, giving up the child she nearly died to bring into the world would ultimately cause heart-wrenching pain. Mom didn't say anything, just gently patted my back. After patiently waiting for me to finish crying, she took my hand, hailed a taxi, and took me home. When passing by a phone store, I asked the driver to wait for me, got out of the car, and bought a new SIM card to install. As soon as I turned on the phone, several WeChat messages popped up. It was from John. My fingertip hovered over the delete key, hesitating for a long time, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to press it. I might as well keep it, since Harry and I also need to communicate and handle our divorce proceedings. I clicked on the voice messages he sent, and in every one, his tone was arrogant, as if he were ordering around a housemaid. "Mom, where are my socks? Where's my coat? You stupid woman, Dad said he'll divorce you if you don't come back." I calmly closed the chat window and leaned on my mother's shoulder to rest my eyes. Suddenly, the phone rang. I looked down to see John's avatar bouncing on the screen. I had no desire to even pick it up, letting the phone vibrate continuously in my hand. But John didn't seem to intend to give up. After several attempts, my mother finally hesitantly spoke up. "Is it John? That boy has always been persistent, don't break his heart." I sighed and eventually pressed the answer button. Probably because he had been waiting for too long, John's voice was cold and impatient. "When exactly are you coming back? Do you know that I couldn't find my school bag this morning and almost was late for school? Also, have you finished the craft assignment you promised to help me with? If you don't hurry back and help me finish it, I'll tell Dad." "John." I interrupted him softly, his incessant complaints were truly annoying me. "Listen carefully, your father and I are getting a divorce, and I won't be coming back anymore. Besides, you're already 8 years old. Can you stop depending on others for everything like a child? From now on, you'll have to rely on yourself." My voice was extremely cold, but my heart ached for no reason. It felt like having a piece of my heart carved out. There was a silence on the other end of the line, so long that I thought he had already hung up, when suddenly a sharp, tear-choked roar came through. On what grounds? You gave birth to me, on what grounds can you just decide whether or not you want to be my mother? I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. On what grounds? He must have forgotten. On his 8th birthday, at the birthday party I had meticulously prepared for a long time, Morgan and I both bought birthday cakes without prior arrangement. I bought his favorite cake with Ultraman decorations, while what Morgan brought was just an ordinary fruit cake she picked up casually. I eagerly presented the cake to him, but he just glanced at it before knocking it away. He frowned and said to me with annoyance, "Mom, I've grown up." Who still likes Ultraman? So childish. I stared at my cream-stained skirt, trying desperately to hold back tears. Just a month ago, when Morgan didn't come back, he had cried for a long time because I refused to buy him the Ultraman toy in the mall window. When I adjusted my emotions and looked up, he was taking the plain, unadorned cake from Morgan's hands, smiling with incredible sweetness. Leaning into Morgan's embrace, he said in a cloying voice, "Thank you, Aunt Morgan, I love it so much." Harry also put his arm around Morgan's shoulder, affectionately watching them. They were like a happy family, while I was merely a spectator. In that moment, I suddenly felt disheartened. 10 years of deep affection, 8 years of nurturing in their eyes, it was apparently worthless. At the height of the birthday party, he made a pious wish while facing the candles. Some relatives and friends jokingly asked him what he had wished for. He answered with utmost seriousness, "I hope that Mom would disappear, and Aunt Morgan could be my new mother." Caught off guard, my smile froze on my face. My chest felt as if it had been crushed by a boulder, the pain was excruciating. I forced a smile until the end of the banquet. No one knew how desolate I felt inside. But now, he's asking me on what grounds. I took a deep breath and answered him seriously, "John, do you remember your birthday wish? It was you who chose to give up on me, not that I didn't want you. From now on, I won't bother you anymore, and please don't come to disturb me either." The words were harsh, and through the receiver, I could hear him crying so hard he couldn't catch his breath. I used to feel heartbroken, but now I just found it utterly annoying. Just as I was about to hang up, Harry's voice came through the receiver again, suppressing his anger. "Poppy, do you have to treat John this way? Is this what you should do as a wife, as a mother? Why are you always so impulsive?" I suddenly found it ridiculous. I was simply granting their wish, letting them go to pursue the lives they wanted. Why did they still have to blame me? "Harry, on our wedding anniversary last month, I waited for you at the restaurant I had booked 3 months in advance until they closed. Do you remember why you didn't come?" I took a deep breath before speaking again. "You said you had company business, but then I saw on Morgan's social media, your face with a smug look. She said, 'Thank you for coming so late to help her kill that terrifyingly large cockroach.'" I didn't speak anymore, and the other side fell into silence too. After a long while, he finally spoke through gritted teeth, "Poppy, are you really getting a divorce? Don't you regret it? I will find a lawyer to discuss the divorce matters with you as soon as possible. Rest assured, I won't regret it, and don't bother me again." I answered nonchalantly and reached out to hang up the phone. I have the mentality to accept defeat gracefully and the courage to start over. After all, it's only 10 years, I can afford to lose. My hometown is a small town that I used to look down on, but now it gives me an incredible sense of peace. I've always liked children, so I found a job cooking at an orphanage. I never expected that on my first day of work, I would meet the little girl from the train again. She stood timidly among the group of children, looking at me with eyes full of anticipation. I gently stroked her head and smiled warmly at her. Then I took out the candies I had prepared in advance from my bag and placed them in her hand. I quickly became familiar with her, and she told me her name was Taylor. She said that when she was first born, she was also treasured like a precious jade pearl. But later, her younger brother was born, her dad left with another woman, and so her mother didn't want her anymore. My heart ached as I listened, and I pulled her into my arms, stroking her hair again and again. She became very clingy, staying by my side when I cooked, handing me the salt shaker or soy sauce bottle. Half a month passed like that. When I got off work that day, she rubbed the corner of her clothes and timidly spoke up, "Auntie Poppy, can't you really take me home? I'll be very, very good, and I'll help you with many things. I just really, really want a home." My eyes instantly welled up with tears, and I suddenly remembered a long time ago when John was just a baby, he had once said something similar to me while in my arms. "Mom, I'll be your most obedient baby and be your good helper. Please don't send me to kindergarten, okay? I want you to stay with me. Only where you are is my home." I took her to the director and expressed my desire to adopt her. Those complicated adoption procedures became incredibly simplified once they learned I was Harry's wife. This was probably the last thing Harry could do for me before our divorce. That evening, I walked home hand in hand with Taylor. We laughed and talked all the way, just like a real mother and daughter. But the moment we stepped through the door, our laughter abruptly stopped. I froze in place. On the living room sofa, two figures, one large and one small, sat with their backs to me. It was Harry and John. My mother sat nearby, her cloudy eyes fixed intently on John. She wanted to reach out and touch her beloved grandson, but he dodged by turning his head away. She awkwardly withdrew her hand, her smile somewhat strained. "Mom, I'm back," I said softly. Hearing my voice, Harry and John both turned to look at me. Harry looked indifferent, while John's eyes were filled with joy. He hastily got up and flew toward me. "Mom, I missed you so much." I reached out to him, but not to hug him, instead, I gently pushed him away. My expression was somewhat cold. "Who sent you here?" John froze, an incredulous look appearing on that exquisitely handsome face. He had grown up pampered and privileged, so naturally he had never experienced such cold treatment. "Mom, why won't you hold me?" I explained to him with my head lowered. "John, I've told you, from now on, I'm no longer your mother." He was trembling all over, his two small hands clenched into fists at his sides, his tone somewhat stubborn. "But I'm only 8 years old, you have no right to refuse to raise me." I was annoyed and laughed mockingly. "Really? Given my circumstances, even if we went to court, they wouldn't award you to me." "John, stop being unreasonable. I was just fulfilling your wish to let you have a mom you like. What are you trying to achieve by acting like this now?" I didn't look at him again, but turned around and pulled Taylor, who was hiding behind me, and walked into the room. Behind me, John's voice became agitated. "On what grounds are you rejecting me?" Suddenly, Taylor screamed. I turned around to see John grabbing her hair, desperately dragging her toward the door. He emotionally questioned me. "Mom, you don't want me, is it just because of this little bastard? You have a new child now, so you don't like me anymore, is that it?" For the first time since he was born, I was utterly fed up with him. And for the first time, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. My face flushed red with anger. "John, let go. Have you forgotten all your manners?" He truly is Harry's child, inheriting his stubbornness to the core. Faced with my anger, he showed no fear. I shielded Taylor behind me, but he relentlessly charged forward, striking her hard with his shoulder. John was half a head taller than Taylor. This collision knocked her directly to the ground, and he fell down sitting as well. Taylor clutched her chest, in too much pain to speak. I also became vicious and slapped him again on the other side of his face. Several red marks instantly appeared on his fair and tender skin. My mother was heartbroken and quickly got up, stumbling toward us while murmuring, "Poppy, John is still young, you shouldn't hit him like this." John, however, was completely ungrateful. He turned around and snarled at her, "Who asked for your help?" Get away from me. Anger caused me to lose my last shred of reason. I grabbed his collar and lifted him up, my right hand raised high. This time, the slap never landed on his face. Harry, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, suddenly stood up and grabbed my wrist. His voice was as indifferent as ever. "Poppy, he's your son. How could you be so cruel? Have you caused enough trouble? If you have, come home with me." He turned to John again and yelled, "Get up. Have some manners, come over and apologize to your mother." John stood up crying and slowly moved toward me. He reached into his pocket and took out an exquisite gift box, handing it to me. Somewhat awkwardly, he said, "Mom, this is the birthday gift that Dad and I prepared for you." "I'm sorry, can you please not be angry with us anymore?" I looked at the gift box and found it somewhat ridiculous. For a whole 10 years, I hadn't received a single birthday wish. Yet for every birthday of his and Harry's, I tirelessly prepared gifts. And each time, I was ignored and forgotten by them. Now that I no longer care, they've started to take it seriously. Unfortunately, my birthday has long passed, and I no longer need this belated affection. I took the gift box and threw it directly into the trash without even bothering to open it. When I looked up again, I met John's bloodshot eyes. He looked uneasy, and there was a hint of pleading in his gaze as he looked at me. "Mom, could you please open it? Dad and I picked it out for a long time." His voice choked with emotion, he hung his head, staring helplessly at his toes. I gazed calmly at him. He used to be so small that I had to bend down to see his face clearly. Now he's grown almost to my shoulder. He was someone I risked my life for, someone I once held in the palm of my hand and loved with all my heart. But later, he listened to too many rumors and became convinced that I had won my father through despicable means. On the day Morgan returned, I waited at the school gate to pick him up. Watching as one child after another came out of the school, I craned my neck but couldn't find him. When everyone had left, I anxiously found the teacher. The teacher told me in surprise, "John's father is coming to pick him up this afternoon, saying he has something important." "Didn't they tell you?" I felt a sudden inexplicable panic, and suddenly had a very bad premonition. On the way home, I passed by the fast food restaurant that John always wanted to eat at but I never allowed, and on a whim, I turned in to buy him a hamburger. But through the window, I saw Harry with him and Morgan, eating all the junk food I had strictly forbidden. I stood blankly outside the door, listening to John's slightly disdainful voice. "Aunt Morgan, my grandma said that Dad originally wanted to marry you. It was my mom who took advantage of Dad being drunk and got into his bed. Don't worry, I will definitely help you drive my mom away." Harry looked at him with a smile, neither admitting nor denying it. The explanation was actually on the tip of my tongue, and I wanted to rush in and tell him that it wasn't like that. It was Harry who used my love to put an end to his mother's idea of having him marry Morgan. He said he was still young and not ready to settle down, not wanting to marry Morgan nor me. If I hadn't unexpectedly gotten pregnant with John, I probably wouldn't have married him. He turned a small mistake into a big one. My hand was on the doorknob, watching John look at Harry with admiration. Suddenly, it dropped. He loved Harry, regarding him as the person he respected most. I didn't want to disappoint him. I can't clearly remember how I made it home that day in a daze. But I remember the look of disdain in John's eyes when they returned. The grievances, bitterness, and resentment I once felt all welled up in my chest, making my eyes turn red uncontrollably. I took a deep breath and smiled at John. Then, without another word, I pushed both him and Harry out the door. Only when I closed the door did the tears fall. All the grudges and debts were settled with this final farewell. 3 months later, I left the welfare home. I took out my remaining savings and opened a small restaurant in town. The place wasn't large, but I decorated it to be surprisingly cozy. There were several schools nearby, so business was quite good. Actually, I'm a pretty good cook, but in the past, I never received a single word of praise from John. He likes to eat hamburgers and pizza from outside, and always looks down on the food I make. Mom, I think the food you cook is so bad that even a dog wouldn't want to eat it. He was so sure I wouldn't get angry that he spoke without thinking, recklessly hurting me. But now, every child who comes to eat at my restaurant sincerely praises me. Auntie Poppy's cooking is delicious, it's the best I've ever had. My long-held resentment was satisfied in an instant. Taylor was also very considerate, coming to the shop to help me every day after school. That day, as I was researching new recipes, she stood by with an envious look on her face. Mom, can I learn to cook in the future too, and be as amazing as you? I smiled and patted her head. You'd better not. Cooking isn't that impressive. You can do something more admirable in the future. Her eyes widened wide. How could that be? I think Mom's job is the most enviable one. Looking at her serious expression, I found myself momentarily lost in thought. In the 10 years of being married to Harry, I've never heard anyone praise me for being amazing. In the second year of our marriage, I planned his birthday party and specially chose to hold it at our home villa. I got up before dawn to prepare, and by the time the guests arrived, I had already prepared a full table of dishes. The ladies asked me in surprise, "Did you make all of this yourself? The taste is quite good, but can't your family afford to hire a servant? Making you, a lady, do the work yourself." With an awkward smile on my face, I patiently explained to them that I chose to cook personally because I valued the occasion. Yet their eyes still inevitably carried a hint of contempt. After the banquet, Harry saw off the last guest, then turned around with a dark expression. "Poppy, have I not given you housekeeping money? Why would you do something to embarrass me like this?" My heart ached bitterly, and my eyes turned red uncontrollably. Even though I cried my eyes out, I didn't earn his sympathy. He shot me a fierce glare, slammed the door, and left. That night, he didn't come home at all, leaving me, 5 months pregnant, to cry alone until dawn. It was also from that day that I never cooked in front of others again. My voice choked up as I reached out and pulled Taylor into my arms. "Welcome." The sensor on the shop door suddenly chimed. I held back my tears, put on a smile, and walked out from behind the curtain. I looked up, the smile still lingering on my lips, freezing on my face. Harry was holding John's hand, standing at the shop entrance, both of them looking somewhat humbled. After a long while, he finally spoke softly. "Poppy, it's been a very, very long time since I've seen you smile so beautifully." He was truly forgetful. He couldn't not know that in these past years, he was the one who never made me smile. I didn't respond to him, turning to lift the curtain, wanting to hide back in the kitchen. Harry suddenly reached out and grabbed my arm. I spoke in a humble, somewhat ingratiating tone, "Poppy, I've already sent Morgan back." I gave a faint hum in response. Where she went seemed to have nothing to do with me. My gaze passed over his shoulder and landed on John, who looked somewhat uneasy behind him. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and he had lost a lot of weight. The face that I had spoon-fed until it was chubby now appeared somewhat sunken. He spoke cautiously, as if afraid of upsetting me. "Mom, can I have a meal cooked by you?" I didn't answer, but Taylor had already quietly set the table with bowls and chopsticks. I looked at the father and son's expectant expressions, which were strikingly similar, and sighed softly. "Sit down, there's a menu over there, order whatever you'd like." They walked briskly to the table and sat down. He ordered several dishes in a row without even glancing at the menu. They were all dishes I used to make often, but they never really wanted to eat them. People are always like this, they only regret what they've lost when it's gone. I moved with practiced ease and quickly finished cooking the dishes. After serving the last bowl of sliced pork soup, I pulled out a chair and sat down across from them. John kept his head down, focusing only on shoveling the food from his bowl. Better behaved than during any meal in the past 8 years. Mom, your cooking is delicious. It was a compliment I hadn't heard in years, yet it came so easily from his lips. So it turned out he wasn't incapable of giving compliments, nor was my cooking not tasty. He simply, purely hated me. I quietly waited for them to finish eating. After the last shred of meat was swallowed, I spoke calmly, "Since you're here, let's have a proper talk." Probably knowing what I was about to say, a hint of panic flashed in Harry's eyes, but he had to force himself to appear calm. I looked at him coldly. "Harry, the lawyer said the divorce proceedings aren't going very smoothly. You're being very uncooperative and still refuse to sign the divorce agreement. You should know that whether you sign or not, it doesn't change anything. After 2 years of separation, I can file for divorce. There's still 1 year and 7 months left, and I can wait that long." His expression gradually became pained. After a long silence, he slowly spoke, "Poppy, is this really how it has to be between us? Must we really go down this path? I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and I want to tell you that I truly love you, and I can't live without you." I suddenly started laughing, and as I laughed, tears began to fall. Such a simple word, yet I waited 10 years and never heard it. When he finally said it, I no longer needed it. Strangely, I felt disgusted, and my gaze toward him was filled with contempt. "Harry, don't you think the most despicable thing in this world is belated affection? To be honest, the person you are now disgusts me. Between us, this is how it ends, and this is how it must be. From now on, please be a proper ex, like your dad." His discomfiture was fully visible to me, yet my heart couldn't stir even the slightest ripple. I turned my head again to look at the panic-stricken John. "As for you, I'll just pretend I never gave birth to you. You have the right to choose the mother you like, and similarly, I have the right to choose the child I like. And you, I don't like you anymore." Harry's face turned deathly pale, and a few seconds later, he abruptly stood up. The movement was so sudden that his chair was knocked to the ground. Clenching his teeth, he grabbed John's wrist and said in a low voice, "Let's go. It's time to go back. Don't disturb your mother again in the future." John lost control in front of me for the first time. He broke free from Harry's grip with force and threw himself into my arms. "I'm not leaving. I want to stay with Mom." "You lied to me, Mom isn't as terrible as you say. Mom, please, please don't abandon me. I'll eat properly and do my homework diligently from now on. I won't ask for expensive toys anymore. I'm easy to raise and won't cost you much money. Please let me stay." I reached out and pushed him back. He couldn't keep his balance and fell to the ground. That wronged expression of his was just like when I used to go out alone as a child and return to find him crying and looking for me. But things were different now, and I wouldn't soften my heart for this anymore. From now on, I only want to live for myself. "Welcome." The doorbell rang abruptly again. I turned to look. My mom was standing by the door, looking shocked. John's eyes lit up as if he had seen a savior. He clumsily got up and threw himself into my mother's arms, saying coquettishly, "Grandma, Mom doesn't want me anymore, can you help me? Don't you like me the most? I'll stay with you every day from now on and give you back rubs, okay?" A glimmer of light appeared in my mother's clouded eyes. I thought she was about to speak up to plead for John. But she merely pressed her lips together and reached out a trembling hand to stroke John's head over and over again. "Just like you used to stroke me when I was a child." I watched the light in her eyes fade away bit by bit. After a long while, she finally spoke in a trembling voice, "John, your grandmother loves you, but I can't force your mother. Before she became your mother, she was my daughter first. My daughter has been hurt beyond recognition by you people. Do you think I don't feel heartbroken?" The day she came back, I was devastated. Now that she's finally getting better, how could I possibly push her back into the abyss? So, I'm sorry, John, go back with your dad. My mom wiped away her tears, gently pushed John away, and turned her back, refusing to look at him again. That day, John cried for a long time in my shop, but eventually followed Harry away reluctantly. They never came back, and I felt somewhat relieved. From now on, there would be no connection between us and them anymore. As New Year approached, my lawyer called to say that Harry had agreed to sign, with the only requirement being that I had to go back in person to handle the divorce proceedings with him. I agreed, considering it as putting a period to the first half of my life. I entrusted Taylor to my mother's care and set off on the journey back alone. When I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Harry had already been waiting for me in the cold wind for a long time. I smiled. It used to be me who waited for him, and now that we were about to part, having the chance to let him wait for me one last time wasn't so bad after all. The divorce certificate was processed faster than I had imagined. When we parted, Harry's eyes were filled with reluctance. He gently held my sleeve and asked if we would meet again in the future. Without much hesitation, I firmly shook my head. I turned and walked away briskly, never looking back. Over mountains and rivers, you and I part ways, never to meet again.